Okay, we should be good to go now.
All set. Okay. Welcome everybody to the Catabolic Window podcast, episode 72 here, Jack. We've almost been going a year and a half, mate. It's an
Bonkers.
incredibly long-term relationship. I don't know how I've put up with you for this long. And unfortunately, Nadir has to put up with us today. So we've got him on to talk a little bit about like what he does, the clients that he works with, and then we'll probably dive down an exercise mechanics rabbit hole because we all love that stuff. It's all fun, as the listeners know at this point. So, bro, how are you doing?
Great, great. Thanks for having me here. It's something new for me as well. I've been coaching for the last 9 years. Before coaching, I was into IT and then working into corporates, 6 years into the job. But my inclination was towards fitness. So we formed a community and then it became a company. And now I'm a coach since the last 9 years. I coach a variety of population, I would say, which is a mix of Gen Pop, some athletes, some sports athletes as well. But it's a variety of population, I would say. So I have experience working with majority of the types, even competitive athletes, natural bodybuilding mostly. So yeah, that's how I coach, and it has been online since the beginning. So I'm an online coach.
Oh, so you were fairly early to like the online trend. And so what would that have been? Like 2015?
2015, yes, that's when we started the community, and even back then the online business was there. We used to have bodybuilding.com. I'm not sure if you guys know. Yeah. So back then it was that which was supposed to be an online community, and then we started
Ooh.
the fitter community here, which was earlier known as Squats. It's one of the largest fitness community in India, and it's globally as well. It's big. It's in lakhs. So so we started it as a community, and we started helping people. The main reason behind it was all of the founding members never got the guidance that they wanted. So we had this vision that we don't want that to happen to anybody else. We wanted to make information available to people. Now it depends upon them if they want to take it or not, but at least make it accessible. So that's when we started, and we were pretty early in the online business. So it worked well for us.
Interesting, man. I remember, just to
Right,
kind of
I
bring it
see.
back a sec, you said that you started in IT and then moved over to online coaching. What kind of drove that big shift? Because I actually had a similar background initially. Like when I was kind of like picking a career and choosing where I wanted to go, computer science was originally what took my heart, and then I kind of fell in love with the gym, and then was like, actually, this is what was. But yeah, I'd be interested to know your journey.
Yes, same. I have a BTech in IT. I've done that, and I have worked with various companies, and I was good with it. But I remember a meeting with my managers and stuff, and discussing what's your vision and all of that that usually happens in corporate, right? And I was sitting wondering, what am I doing here?
Mm.
Uh, because even though I was doing well, it was all good. I could have probably grown there as well. But the thing was that I wanted to do something that I could make a difference in. So that was very important to me. Hence, I wanted to make that shift, but I did not honestly know back then how do I do that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a gamble for me. It really worked well. When people ask me today that would you recommend the same thing to do, I would not. Honestly, I would say uh, have a better risk management than what I had, because I did not have anything. I just quit. I just joined a new company, and then fifth day I put my resignation, and we started doing this. So
Wow.
that's
Fair enough, man. Fair enough.
Yeah, ballsy move there for sure. How did you
yes,
find
yes.
the shift from like corporate IT life to then online coaching?
I thought it would be less work. Turned out it's much more work.
The
But
classic.
the good thing is that you enjoy this work and you like doing it. So you end up working more without feeling that you're working more, because it's
Yeah.
like, it's the hobby, it's the work. Yes, over time it becomes like you have to make it look like work as well, because organizing stuff, dealing with things has to be more professional. So that happened over time, but it was a good learning curve, as in shift from a regular job which pays you by the end of the month, and here you're not very sure would you get enough by the end of the month or not. But fortunately, everything has been pretty smooth and progressive since I started.
Fantastic, mate.
Is there anything that like didn't go so well that you'd like, yeah, I definitely wouldn't do that again, or just sort of like advice that you'd point out to people if they're looking to make that move?
Yes, most of it is, I would say, it's not to do with the career. It's just to do with the thought process. As in, most of the initial years, it was all about doing certifications, listening to podcasts, learning technical stuffs. But if I sum up the entire 9 years, I would have used 10% of what I know till
Yeah.
date. And I don't think I would be using much more either in the future. Yes, some of the exercise mechanics stuff we can apply, but again, if you're online, that's not very easy, because there is a lot of to and fro that need to happen
Yeah.
before you suggest certain things. So it becomes a little tough to do that, but yes, you can at least apply that in terms of things like periodization or advanced topics, technical topics. That would not be too much, because most people don't really struggle with following calories, macros, and stuff. They
Yeah.
struggle with things which is not related to physiology, but mostly psychology.
100%, man. Do you think that kind of knowing that you like 90% of what you do know you don't apply, do you think in general most coaches should focus on chasing a bit more education, or do you think most coaches kind of should acknowledge that they have enough and just focus on applying themselves?
Yes, it has to be a balance, because to be a confident coach, you need to know stuff. So
Mm.
that's something that you cannot manage without. You have to know stuff, but you don't need to be like an advanced biochemist or something like that. You don't need to be that, because yes, it sounds cool if your target audience is coaches.
Yeah.
And again, I also coach coaches, a lot of coaches, a lot of athletes who know what periodization means, what certain technical jargons mean. But even with them, it's the same problem. It's not the actual program that's the problem. It's how do they adhere?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do they manage? So I would usually advise coaches to focus on people skills,
Mhm.
communication skills, being more of a listener as compared to showing off what you know. Because earlier I used to do that. I mean, I would like to show off what I know, what I learned. It was cool because nobody knew, and it was like, oh, this guy knows stuff. But when I look at how my clients come in, why do they stay with me? It has nothing to do with technical knowledge. It has very little to do with technical knowledge, but most of it is how you manage them, how you coach them.
100%. I always say, like, I think a lot of coaches in particular struggle with getting people to do stuff because, like, I'm sure for the three of us, if we're really set our minds on, we're gonna achieve this goal within training or the gym or nutrition, like a diet, we'll just do it. We just kind of do it.
Right.
Whereas coaches who are, because you're doing it for a living, you're probably pretty invested in the gym and nutrition. But when you take someone who's, like got a job outside of that and they're paying you to help them, suddenly, a temptation is put in front of them or they've had a stressful day and they don't adhere. And I think a lot of coaches do struggle with that, like you said, like that element of just understanding that to a client, just because you've told them be in a calorie deficit or go and do a back squat doesn't mean they're going to want to go and do it or go and do it at all.
That's right. That's right. Yes,
Like with
absolutely.
the
Because
communication skills thing, it can seem quite like vague, like, okay, how do you get better at that? And one of the things that I find is really helpful, like what you mentioned with the listening thing, is just almost restating to them like exactly what they've said to you, like, especially on a consultation call, like when you're talking, going through it. Okay, you said you want to do this, at the moment you're doing X, Y, Z, and this is sort of the outcome we're getting, and then just giving them the opportunity, like, is there anything I've missed there?
Yeah.
Because I think that's listening to the person a lot of the time gives you the answers in itself, because most people like know that if they know that they've been overeating in the evening and that's what's causing them the issue, they know that. They know they need to stop overeating in the evening. So us saying, okay, don't do that, isn't very helpful. It's about talking to them and finding what they're doing in their life that's causing that. Is there anything else that you've found, like in terms of strategies, very helpful communication wise?
Very rightly said, Luke. As in, communication is always bi-directional. It's not one way. And that's where I think initially as coaches, we come to a call with a pre-decided notion that, okay, this is what we are going to suggest, without even listening what the client wants or wants to go through, right? So it used to happen a lot when I started. Okay, calorie deficit is the answer. You need to eat less, move more. That's the solution that most coaches would do. And then, so, but what has helped me over time is the things that I learned in corporate, as in when you take, since I worked in IT, there used to be calls, understanding the requirements of a customer, restating them, and making sure that that's what they want, because otherwise you'll end up losing the client, right? So that these things from corporate world has really helped me apply the same stuff here. So before even talking to a client, I would take a lot of information from them, so that before getting on a call, I have an idea of what are their challenges, and then I can use that time to dig into it a little more to understand, okay, why is it happening? Why do you think it's happening? Because what I believe is, you can't make somebody change. You can only be a facilitator, right? But if you don't understand where is that obstacle for them, you can't initiate that change. They have to understand that, okay, this is the challenge, and they need to understand, not just us. We might be able to understand, but if they don't know, or they don't realize, or they don't accept that, it's very difficult for them to even bring in that change.
100%, man.
So it has to be like communication which goes both ways, wherein you're listening and then you're reiterating and making sure that you both are on the same page, and then taking it from there. That helps a lot.
Yeah, I think often a lot of coaches sometimes, like you said, they have this predetermined idea of here's the direction that we're moving in. And like I've said this to other coaches before, it's like, reassure your client that you're on the same team, that you're doing the same thing. Because if your client's like over here thinking, oh, why hasn't Nadir made this change? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And you're just kind of full steam ahead with less food, less food, less food. And they're kind of over here like, why am I always eating less food? It can feel like you're moving in opposite directions, and you never want that to happen as a coach. So I think, like you said, taking that time to talk about, like, tell me, what do you struggle with? Why are you coming to a coach in the first place? What's the problem? How do we fix it? And talking through and getting an idea of, just making them feel understood and making them feel backed up by you rather than led by you, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Also, the thing that a lot of people come to you looking at a transformation picture that they really got inspired from. They see the before after, but they don't know the work that would be required to get to that, right? And I'm sure you guys would agree that there are a lot of clients who don't know the amount of effort that would be required to get there.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And that makes them have an expectation, but they don't have that bandwidth to put that much work within a specific amount of time.
Yeah.
So making them understand that this is going to be a process. Yes, you can achieve that. It's possible, but probably it's not going to take just 12 weeks. It's going to take more than that, right? And making them understand in such a way that they also understand, okay, why it's going to take that much time, helps them to even set those expectations realistically, right? So that also helps.
Yeah, definitely having that
Yeah,
conversation.
it's like I want the they're coming in thinking like, I want the outcome.
Yeah.
But then sometimes when you break down, this is what you've got to do in order to get it. Like, actually, yeah, no, I don't want that. Like, not for that amount of work.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I think having that open
Sorry,
and
Jack,
honest.
what were you going to say?
Oh, no worries, man. I was just going to say having that like open and honest communication of like, you know, when say we're using the example of dieting someone, you say like, okay, well, here's how hard we're pushing now. Here's how much we're losing. Yeah, we could get to this goal in this time frame, but here's the cost of that decision. I think that's a lot of your job as a coach is to say, look, there's more than one way to get from A to B. Here's why we've gone for this particular route, but we can veer off. Like, you know, yeah, sure, I could get you to 70 kilos in 7 weeks, but it's going to mean that, you know, those weekend lunches that you like to have with your partner, they're not going to happen, or the cardio that you already don't really enjoy doing, we might have to double or triple that, you know. And I think setting that expectation of like if people ever ask, you know, what's possible in 12 weeks, I'll say, well, here's a vague idea, but ultimately it's just going to be the most progress that you can sustain for those 12 weeks. Like, you will be infinitely better off after those 12 weeks compared to if you were to do them, you know, uncoached. But yeah, I think that's a very good point. Like, I know a lot of coaches now who don't post transformations of clients because of those comparisons, and because of their client base, they don't want to create unrealistic expectations, particularly, you know, the transformations that we ourselves are capable of compared to some of our clients. You know, it's not fair at all. So yeah, I think sometimes it's a good conversation to have. It's a good point to raise.
Where do you guys sit on that spectrum then of like weighing it up of, okay, should I post this, should I not, with say a transformation, something like that?
So transformation wise, I would definitely post it. It's your portfolio, right? Because people don't care how much you know or what you would be doing, how good your communication would be, because that's something that you experience through the process. What excites them to buy is the result.
Yeah.
That's basic marketing, right? You buy emotion, you buy the end result. It's mostly emotional driven thing, right? So posting transformation is important, and we should be doing that because that's the work that we have done, but also highlighting the truth.
Yeah.
And speaking a little bit about the work that went behind it, does few things. One is it's setting out that, okay, you are more of a transparent coach. You're not calling every transformation as a 12-week transformation. You are saying if it took years, it took years.
Yeah.
And then when you give due credits to the client for putting in that work, because they are the one who did that work. We were doing the same stuff we have been doing with all the clients.
Yeah.
But this client in particular who has transformed has put in the work. So they need that due credit. So the client also feels a lot better about it because they are getting that due credit. And it's not just about client giving good feedback for the coach and it's all marketing stuff, right? So that way it helps build more credibility, and that client also, in terms of business, the client also becomes a promoter for you.
Yeah.
They would refer people to you. And since I started coaching when Instagram was not really a thing, I don't think 2015, 2016, Instagram was this big. So, and I have never struggled getting clients ever, fortunately. But it has not been because of these transformation pictures or something, but mostly because how I made my clients feel, and most of it are referrals.
Yeah.
Yes, now Instagram is like you are competing with other coaches, but again, when somebody is coming to you, your profile, they look at a transformation, the chances of them buying from you is going to take some time. It's not going to be an instant, oh, this is amazing transformation, let me just pay few $100 just right away. And no, most people don't do that. So they would spend enough time on your profile, going through what you do, how you work, what are the feedback, what are the genuine relationships that you have with people. They would talk to people who have transformed under you. That's how it goes. So yes, posting transformation is one part of the equation, building a community is the biggest thing that coaches should be focusing on.
Yeah, 100%.
That's my view.
That's a very good point.
So what did you do like before Instagram then? You mentioned you didn't really struggle to get clients. So how was it that you were marketing yourself and got those like initial clients, if that makes sense, when you essentially quit your job 5 days in?
Yes. So initially, like I said, we started a Facebook community. It was a Facebook group. Back then, Facebook group used to grow like crazy. Now, not so much. But back then, it was a really good way to engage people, help people. Before I started coaching for a fee, I was coaching people for free. And that helped me build enough credibility, enough results, because if you're coaching somebody for free, they don't mind. And obviously there are factors like, because they haven't paid, they might not stick to it. Yes, that happens most times. But as a new coach, the biggest obstacle is not enough results, not enough experience. And when you are offering something for free, you can coach more people, you can give less service, and yet achieve good, decent amount of results that you can use as a portfolio, and then clients start coming in. So that's how it worked for me as well. I would have coached a lot of people. I would have helped a lot of people in answering their day-to-day questions on the Facebook group. I remember answering to queries 12 a.m. in the night and all of that for months altogether, for years. And that made me known among a certain set of people. And then we were doing some seminars and stuff like that. We were meeting people. They knew us. It was a new thing. It was a Facebook group. It was growing. The online thing was very new. And people realized that, okay, I don't need to pay too much to a personal trainer in the gym who would most probably not give me advice on nutrition or not give me a proper program and not follow up with me, no accountability, stuff like that. And here is an online coach who can offer me all of that in a fraction of the cost. So that also helped in getting that mindset that, okay, you can get results working online with someone, and location is not a constant.
Mate, 100%.
What does that community look like now then, that we're sort of almost a decade later? Is it still in Facebook? Is it a bit more Instagram now? Is it private WhatsApp group type thing?
No, it started as a WhatsApp group. The main founder was leading that WhatsApp group, but then it became a Facebook group. Now we have an app. The app has coaches, both PT coaches, online PT coaches, fitness and nutrition coaches, wherein we guide them overall. There are physiotherapists. There are mental health wellness coaches. So it's a big community which is serving a lot of people in terms of health and wellness completely. And then we do have the Facebook group active, but we had to bring our own app because in order to have more control over our community, we needed to have our own thing. Because what if Facebook goes off and we don't have access to the community? So it makes sense to have your own thing, bring in the people that you have onto something that you own.
Yeah, man. I think that's really cool, that kind of having something completely bespoke is a very, very big selling point as a coach, because as I'm sure you've seen, like as coaching gets more and more popular, it seems that everyone kind of does the same thing. It's always WhatsApp communication, Loom for videos, Google Sheets for check-ins. And so I think saying, hey, I've got an app, it's my app, it's not, a Facebook group, it's not a WhatsApp group. Like whenever people click on that app, they're fully engrossed in your company and everyone associated with that. So I think that's honestly really, really cool. Do you have any plans kind of long term about like where you'd like to kind of take the business, or where you can kind of see things going?
Yes, in terms of exercise mechanics, that's the concept itself, I would say is new. It's not new as in, but in the fitness industry is treating exercise mechanics as something that has recently started, and people would state exercise mechanics coach as biomechanics experts and stuff like that. But It has been there for a very long time. It has been there since courses have been there. So uh, it's just that we have started to realize, okay, yes, there could be certain changes that we could do to make things better. So yes, something on that perspective, on those lines, as in creating a lab or something where we can educate people on that, where we can educate coaches on that. That would be something that I would love to do.
Fantastic, man. So, would you still want to coach alongside that, or kind of just move purely
Yes,
to? That's the mark of a true
I would
coach,
still
there.
like to coach. I would still like to coach because I believe coaching people helps me apply. The thing with education is it is theoretical
Yeah,
and it is just numbers or words until you apply. Because when you apply, you start realizing that it's more gray area than black and
yeah,
white, right?
mate, 1,000%. I feel like most people kind of grasp that with nutrition, but with training, we're not quite there yet. I think most coaches can understand, okay, in theory, if we're talking about macros, we might have, a certain amount of protein. Fats tend to be away from training, carbs tend to be towards them. But if you've got someone who can't adhere to that and they like a big high calorie meal before they go to bed to help them diet, then we supply that. But I think a lot of coaches get very caught up in, no, I gave you a lat dominant row targeting the iliac fiber, so you're not swapping it for a bent over row because that's too upper back focus. And it's very interesting. So yeah, I think that's really, really good not to get too kind of caught up in like the theory is great, but like Paul and James say, you kind of have to just work with what's in front of you and tailor all the theory to the person there.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes the most optimal plan for a client is not optimal in terms of theory,
Oh, 1,000%.
right?
Yeah, 1,000%.
So that if that makes sense for that person,
Mm.
it just makes sense. It's the best plan for that person.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what the theory says about it. So
Yeah, exactly. I think people like to. I always get annoyed at this online when people start comparing exercise. They'll be like, which is better, the leg extension or the barbell back squat? And I'll say, well, they're made or broken by the person that interacts with them. Like you can't argue which one is better or worse because who are we talking about? You
yes,
there is
exactly.
no such thing as like, okay, maybe for most people who tend to do things similarly, you could maybe lean towards one, but you can't say with certainty. It's like saying which is better, bread or rice. It's like, well,
Exactly.
you know,
Like,
what's the
It's definitely
context?
rice. It's definitely jasmine rice. Come on, bro.
But yeah, I think yeah, a lot of people do get caught up in the kind of in the I guess the 90% like you were talking about before. There's the 10% that you use, the other 90% that you should know, but you very rarely get to apply, and people get too caught up in that. And maybe that's why people struggle to get referrals and get people through the door, and that's why you're not struggling with that because you can
yes,
understand. If someone says, "Hey, I want to do biceps every single day," maybe sometimes that's the best decision for them.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. When I started, it was like everybody wanted to do abs, and I would assume, okay, abs will not help you lose fat from your belly, but if they that helps them to go to the gym and work
Yeah,
out,
yeah. Or
it
if,
works.
yeah, like feeling their abs, that sensation of like they feel like they're making progress, or when they get home that night, they're not going to cheat on their diet because they're like, I trained abs, I'm going to get my abs. And yeah, there's a lot of benefits. Obviously, as long as a coach you explain like, like this isn't,
Obviously,
yeah, yeah,
obviously.
yeah. But sometimes you do just have to say, well, you don't, you want to do this, let's do it. Here's maybe why, here's some misconceptions, but ultimately, if you want to do that, do that. You know.
Yes. So like I said, I mean, being on the same page is very, very important.
Yeah.
It's so having that bits and pieces of information in a way that's not very overwhelming really helps. Then the client starts feeling that, okay, coaching is more than just a plan. It's more
Mm.
about uh, educating, teaching them how to catch a fish. And a lot of coaches, I believe, are scared. What if the client knows how to track?
Yeah, yeah,
What if the client knows how to program for themselves? What if the client knows all the replacement exercises that they can do? Then what is the need of a coach? The problem is coaching has never been about the plans. I
yeah,
mean, plans even the chat GPT can give, right? AI can replace those coaches very quickly if they are not working on the skills that's actually required to be a good coach. So coaching is much more than just a plan. It's a lot of interaction. It's a lot of learning through the process. Each client I coach, I learn something new, which really helps me guide the next client. Because next time I come across a similar client, I have that information already there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you're...
Are there any of those that are like sticking out in your mind at the moment about like things that you've learned recently from working with a specific person?
Yes, as in there are so many, because on an everyday basis, it's important to understand what helps. So sometimes there would be a set of clients who would be like, okay, I want to have a sustainable way of living. I need to socialize. I need to meet people. This is part of networking. Sometimes what happens, it makes sense. Yes, that's important because their job revolves around it.
Yeah.
But sometimes they come to you not just to understand them and go with them the process. Sometimes you also need to remind them, okay, you have also come to me for getting better, to moving up to the next level.
Yeah.
So yes, you have acquired certain skills that will help you to socialize and still maintain your progress, but also have that in back of the mind that, okay, when I have more time, when I can socialize a little less without affecting any other sphere of my life, can I put that work towards my fitness so that I also progress? Otherwise I'm in the same place and just managing, and after a point it becomes uncool, right? I mean, you start wondering, why am I doing it? What am I getting out of it? I'm the same, I'm looking the same, so it makes no sense.
Yeah, I think
so a little bit of part wherein we as a coach can become understanding, at the same time we can be like, okay, time to get back on track also. So
yeah, teaching people that kind of compromise, that push and pull, because I'm sure you see it both ways, where someone goes overboard a little bit and then they go, oh, I'm just not going to socialize, or I'm not going to go out, and you're like, no, that's not what we're doing here. Like, you can still go out, but here's how you do that. So yeah, I think helping kind of pull people back but also push them a little bit is 100% really important as a coach. And like you said, if your only value as a coach is just writing down, set some reps and picking an exercise that's going to target a certain muscle, like, again, or if the only thing you're able to offer is just like information that anyone can look up, then yeah, you are going to get replaced, and that's not the value of coaching. Like, and I'm sure, you know, we'll all agree, or in my opinion at least, some of the most fun clients to work with are the ones who do understand, because then it's like you can talk a little bit more about the nitty gritty, and you can kind of explain about what's going on. And, you know, if something did go wrong, they're a bit more clued up in like, oh, I couldn't do this exercise, so I did this one. And you're like, oh, brilliant, fantastic, like, nice, well done. You know, so just because you coach people who have a similar level of knowledge or even more knowledge doesn't mean that you're necessarily redundant as a coach. So yeah, I think a lot of coaches are scared of like, oh, as soon as they know too much, they'll leave me. I need to keep them guessing. You know.
Yes. The fun part
when
is
in reality,
I have worked
that's
with a lot of...
Sorry, mate, carry on.
Go ahead.
Luke's Wi-Fi.
I was just going to say, in reality, once the client gets to that point of knowledge where they know quite a bit of like what you know, in a sense, that's the fun part, because then you can have a proper discussion with them and really take on board their input about like where they're at and what they think is best. And I'll do that all the time, where I would say, like, to be honest, like, I'm not necessarily sure which is going to be the best option here. We could do A or we could do B. What do you think is going to work best for you? When it's somebody that knows their life, they've consistently gotten like good results over a long period of time, and they can apply themselves, like, their feedback's really important.
Yeah.
It is very important. And I have coached a lot of people, since it's a community and it has an educational institute as well, wherein people get on to... I've been an educator there. I have taught students on fitness coaching and stuff. I've written some chapters for the fitness courses. So what has helped me understand doing both the things, as a coach, as an educator, is that education is only a part of coaching, and it will just help you bring that client of yours to maybe your level,
Yeah.
but that doesn't take away the coach aspect from you. Right?
Yeah.
So if they, when you start coaching them, you have to talk about, okay, this is how you do it, this is what you do it, or things that are more simple. And when they know, okay, this is what they can do, and how can you apply, how can you use certain things, as in just matching the profiles, or doing, if you have done too much of lend-in bias, how can you do, how can you minimize the recovery impact, or all of those things. Once they start understanding that, it becomes further easier for you to fine tune things. It's like you have a sports bike, and if you don't know how to fine tune a sports bike, you're not really enjoying the sports bike, right?
Yeah.
So bits and pieces there makes coaching much more fun, because you have a machine that has the capability and has all the features, and you know how to use that machine.
Yeah.
So that client of yours who has been with you for quite some time, understanding, knowing things, now that client has become like that sports machine, and you can push them harder, and they will do it because now they understand it much better.
100%. Yeah, their feedback is more valuable. The conversation is a bit more two-way. I think they're also more willing to try more advanced things, or more things that they don't quite click straight away, because they can understand what you're kind of going for. Say you did give them a new movement, and it's a little bit more complicated. Maybe it's like some kind of hinge pattern or something, right? Some kind of hip extension challenge. They're finding things quite difficult to start off with, but they can understand, because you've taught them, the value of, okay, here's why I should maybe give this a few more goes before then going back and saying, actually, this isn't quite working, you know? And
Right.
yeah, when they kind of critique their own form, or give you that feedback, it is fantastic, because it's like when you've been dieting someone for a while and they say, hey man, I really need a refeed or a diet break. And you're like, do you? Whereas when they're more advanced, it's like, oh, okay, if you're asking for this, you probably do. Depends on the client, but yeah,
Yes.
definitely. Like you said, it's like, yeah, like having a sports bike, and like if you're not able to fine tune it, what's the point of having the sports bike? You're not actually getting the most out of it. But
Exactly.
yeah, brilliant analogy, man. I really like that. How long do you think it took you to get to that point where, because you mentioned before you were working with free clients, and obviously that's probably quite kind of, I guess, low level, I'm not sure what to use it, quite Gen Pop related.
Gen Pop.
How long did it take you to kind of build up to that point where you were getting more into the nitty gritty, and kind of able to really fine tune?
It takes time. I remember 6 months of time where I was just giving free coaching. I was doing my first contest prep.
Oh wow.
And while doing that, I was coaching a lot of people. Once I was done with that, I started coaching athletes, which gave me early access to a little more advanced population, so that I could apply programming, I could apply contest prep solutions, all of that, get ready for the stage.
Yeah.
So the positioning was so good. I had access to general population. I had access to people who were inclined towards natural bodybuilding, so they did not have very unrealistic expectations, as in, okay, can I look this big in so little time? Obviously not. But that also gave me both the population. And while I was coaching this athlete set of people, I could show the results to these people who are for Gen Pop, and they got inspired and they wanted to become like that. So they become your clients. So it was a good mix to have both, because they have an inspiration, you have your learning, and you have access to more people who would be willing to invest in it, because fat loss is a much more common goal than stepping on stage, right? So
Yeah.
What do you find is like the pros and cons of working with, say, Gen Pop versus athletes or coaches?
So pros and cons. If I talk about Gen Pop, cons would be, sometimes it could become a little frustrating for a coach to not be able to apply things that they've learned. So it's natural, because if you are interested in a subject, you would like to apply it because you really like that subject. So if you know about exercise mechanics and stuff like that, and you give it to one of your client and they say, oh no, I don't like this exercise, I do that exercise, which you think is not probably the best solution for them. They have had a lower back issue and they still want to do that thing, which might just aggravate it, and you have a better solution, but they would not listen to you. But at the end, like we discussed, we have to give them what they want. Yes, we give them a signboard or something that, okay, this might be a problem, but at the end of the day, they need to accept that. Without them accepting, you can't force them to do that. So certain things wherein, yes, it could help the client more than what they think, but they don't have the level of understanding to understand what you're trying to say. That becomes a con. But in terms of pros, there are many. With Gen Pop clients, you learn how to deal with people. You learn how to deal with emotions. You get to know so many instances, so many problems that people come across, that you as a coach become much more efficient in knowing the answers, or not even if not answers, at least few solutions to handle that situation, right? The thing with coaches pro is, yes, you can apply what you know. You can very well apply what you know. But sometimes the con could be, if that coach is coachable. I have found Gen Pop more coachable than coaching coaches, because because coaches are like, oh no, this is a shit. This is something that I don't like. I like doing squat, bench, deadlift. I'll stick to that. I'll train like a power lifter, but I want to compete like a bodybuilder. So they would be like that, right? And they would be like, no, I don't care. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Or they would not be very honest with you.
Yeah.
Because they know, oh, how can I manipulate data that the coach might not know that I'm manipulating things. But a good coach will always know eventually, right? So it's like, okay, this happened, and like I work with Paul, so he'd be like, okay, tracking looks like 2000 to 2100, 2000, 2100, 2300. It looks like good on paper, but how did you come across that exact number of 2100 each day? How does it not look like 2038 or 2087?
Yeah.
Right? So yes, there are pros and cons, but it's fun to coach different set of people and not just one population, because then you as a coach after some point can decide, who do you want as your target audience? Who do you like coaching more? Because it could be an assumption that it would be so much fun to train coaches, but might not be true for everyone, right? So it depends what you like more, what you enjoy more, where is more revenue coming from, how your profile, what kind of people your profile attracts, how your content is, all of that.
Yeah, I think starting off with that mix and kind of, seeing what you kind of gel with, I almost not forcing a certain niche upon yourself, but finding out what niche kind of suits you. Like, who do you just naturally get on well with? Because I think the thing that people forget as well, particularly with coaching, is like, you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life, so you better damn enjoy it. You know, so who do you like? Forget everything else. Who do you enjoy working with? Because undoubtedly the client will feel that. Like, let's say that maybe you can charge coaches more, but you enjoy working with Gen Pop more. Well, if you enjoy Gen Pop more, you'll get more interest, you'll get better results, you'll like your work. Even if in theory each client is like, I don't know, 50 quid extra less a month, like, who cares? Yes. You know, because I bet if you really didn't enjoy coaching coaches that much, or coaching powerlifters or whoever, right? If you really didn't enjoy working with that population, you'd probably be like, oh my god, when a client leaves, you might be happy because you're like, finally less work and whatever, you know? So yeah, I think finding where your natural talent is and who you can kind of relate to or help the most is really, really important. But yeah, working with a wide array of people is pretty important, particularly if you're a coach. Like, if you really do understand the coaching process, you can pretty much pick it apart and apply it to everyone, you know? Like, if we understand that training is just driving a stimulus to create an adaptation, okay, well then how can we adjust that stimulus to create a different adaptation? Or why does nutrition work? Well, it works because this. So you can apply it to anyone, you know?
Yes, absolutely.
Something you mentioned at the start there was obviously that you've been in the industry a long time. What and I just find this really interesting because obviously we're a fair bit younger than you. What is different about the online coaching industry now compared to like when you first started?
There are a lot of online coaches now. That's the biggest thing. And ethics wise, I see a decline in the amount of ethics coaches have these days. They post transformations, they even copy they just take somebody else's work and put their name in it and show them, because now algorithm works that way that they might not even see it ever,
Yeah.
but it comes out. But the problem is people fall for it. People fall for supplements, people fall for ads that shows transformations, and there are a lot of ways to do it without even you knowing it. There could be paid ads running behind your back, and so that's going on a lot these days. So for a client, it's not an easy job to pick the right coach. Oh, now why am I saying this is because I was looking at my data from past 1 year, and I've come across a lot of clients who have worked with a lot of coaches before. Uh, the good thing that I have noticed is these clients have been with me for a pretty long time. My renewal rates are around 64-65%, which is pretty good in terms of online business. So I don't have to worry about getting new clients every single month. But the more interesting part is these people have experienced some of the top known coaches they worked with. Why did they decide to stick with me if they were so good? So sometimes it reassures you that, okay, you are doing a good job and you should keep doing that. So a lot of coaches, like I said, you can maybe attract more new clients as an influencer, as somebody who is very good with social media. But whether the client will stick with you for long enough, it it is dependent upon how your coaching skills are, and no one else can do that for you. So you can grow on Instagram with the help of someone. You can maybe write scripts. You can get copywriters. You can do that. You can record a video on a studio and reading a teleprompter, all of that. But at the end, you have to be the one that coaches people. And if you are not a good coach, then they don't stick with you. They might come to you more, but they would not stick to you. So this is what I usually say to a lot of coaches who struggle with seeing other coaches being very famous, and why would people not pick them? Yes, they would pick them first, but they would come back to you if you have given even enough results, referrals. There is no lack of population in this world, right? And fitness is something that most people would want to at some point of their life, if not now, later. But if there is a referral system going on and people are recommending you, you are not going to struggle after a point.
Yeah, exactly that. I think the people, you almost kind of have to understand where you are in the industry and obviously price accordingly, but also understand what your value is. And, yeah, you might not have the biggest social profile, so you might not be the most well known. But if you know that you're extremely knowledgeable and you give your clients a lot of time, there's a lot of value in that. If you're able to, if you're honestly able to say, like, I can take this person and I can maximize their progress while making it sustainable, then you're as good as a top coach. Like, and you're more approachable, and you're more affordable. So I think there's a lot of advantages as well. And like, coaching kind of has, if you get to the very top, you can get to the point where you're so busy that it comes at a cost of the business, because you then can't offer out that much time and people start to feel it. And so I think it's almost like you'd want to be on the upper end of coaching, but not quite at the very top, because I don't know how you'd sustain, like, on your own, having that many clients. You'd have to cap numbers.
So, fun fact, I coach 140, 150 people at the same time.
Wow.
And I believe that's a big number.
Yeah,
And
it is.
with coaching, usually I've seen in the international market, it's mostly Loom reviews, wherein you record videos and send reviews, right? I get on calls every single week, and I am available on WhatsApp for answering their queries. So if you compare me doing work now versus 9 years back, I'm still putting in that much work.
Yeah.
And that I believe is the biggest strength that I have. I might not be like, I'm still under 10K on Instagram. It took me time. But if I look at how am I getting clients, where am I getting clients from, it doesn't bother me too much, because I know that even when there was no Instagram trend or not many influencers like this, I still was getting clients, and I'm still getting more clients. And since I have coached 3,000 plus people, I'm assuming that I would not get problems getting more clients in the future, because it's a big number. I mean, 3,000 people is a big number, and they would have definitely spoken about me, at least 1 or 2%. So these many people know me in person. They trust me more, because with referrals, the benefit is they trust you more. With Instagram, I've seen they kind of don't trust you too much. I mean, they would sign up with you, but the amount of trust they have on you is not as much as if somebody has come via referral, because they've seen the result. They will trust you more, and then they keep doing it. So that's the thing. It's all about how you create that community of people who trust you more, and that's your biggest leverage.
100%. I think referrals are often overlooked, as a coach, like the value of, if you've got someone pushing your marketing for you in a way, there's a lot more trust. Whereas obviously you're going to come out and be like, I can do this, this, and this. Whereas if you've got someone who doesn't go to the gym, or they go to the gym and a close personal friend is saying, oh my God, my coach is great, he did this, it's unprompted, it's not paid for, it's natural. And I think that builds a lot of trust. And I think most coaches probably get a good portion, if not most, of their business from referrals. I remember I was able to trace like 10 referrals that I got directly or indirectly to one single person. Like, I coached one guy, and then I got his girlfriend and his mate and his mate's girlfriend. Like, it just kind of goes and goes and goes. But yeah, honestly, I think a lot of coaches undervalue referrals, and maybe that's why a lot of coaches aren't focused on creating a good experience and community of coaching like you obviously do. Perfect. Luke, do we have any closing questions? Because I'm aware that obviously time is running out, and I don't want to keep you for too long, mate.
Not that I can think of. I just want to say, thank you very much for coming on, mate. It's been really, really interesting to talk about everything that you've sort of gone through and your thoughts, and something that's emerging like more and more in our conversations on the podcast is definitely the communication thing. Like, I know we spoke about it on our one last week, Jack. We definitely spoke about it with George the week before, and it's definitely a slept on thing. And I think it's one of the defining factors in what makes a very good coach, is how well they get along with someone. And I'm glad that's like come across again. So thank you very much for your time. Is there anything that you want to sort of plug or mention to people that have listened?
Yes, thanks to you guys again for having me here. So it really helps when coaches interact among themselves to bring out a perspective that would cater to a large group of audience, because everybody has a different thought process. But there are a few things that connects the dots, right? Even though we might have different way of working or different way of programming, but there is a common thing that brings us together, which, like, if we talk about the PT project mentorship, continuing with it, it's like a small family that you have, even though you don't talk to them on a daily basis or you don't do anything. But there are coaches like you thousands of kilometers away, and they have a very similar thought process. They understand you. They are there to help you when you need them. So the message is for mostly coaches, is because I sense that coaches are afraid of competition rather than thinking of it as a way to get better as coaches. Because no matter how many coaches come up, there is still going to be a lot of people who need help. I still go to the gym and I still see so many people who might do great with coaches, but they are not under coaches. So there's never a lack of coaches. There's not going to be, at least in the next decade.
Yeah.
So having that fear is useless. I mean, that shouldn't be even a thing. It should be like, how can you get better? How can you make things more gray than just black and white? That's what I see mostly on social media. Oh, this is good, this is bad.
Yeah, yeah.
For whom? How?
Yeah.
For which person? What range? So people don't understand. It's like outright, oh, this is not good, this is bad. Oh, don't do bent over rows. It will hurt your back and stuff like that. So, I mean, where is the context? Look at the context.
Exactly.
Look at those things, right? Look at that person who is doing it. Why is he doing it? So many things. I mean, if we get onto exercise mechanics, that would be another few hours. But understanding that that social media just gives a 30-second viewpoint of somebody on something that you have no idea about why that person is doing. So that is only half information. That is a very partial part of information that you're getting, and you cannot decide based on that. So having an overall understanding, talking to coaches, looking at more long-term content, listening to more longer podcasts should help people understand things a lot better than these 30-second videos, honestly.
Definitely. Where on social media or what platforms can people find you on if they want to reach out and inquire for coaching or know a bit more?
Yeah, on Instagram. I am on Instagram, GetFitWithNadir. So it's simple. It's there. I'm not sure if you guys post the video, but it's there on the background as well. So yes, that's where you can find me, and love to chat with anybody who's interested in coaching, or even if any information that they want, feel free to drop me a DM.
Perfect. That will be in the description for anyone who's listening. For anyone watching, it's on screen. Yeah, mate, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully we haven't taken up too much of it. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
All right, thanks very much. Bye, everyone.
See you, bro. Thank you very much. Jack, have you got 2 seconds?
Oh, yeah, I do, mate.
Perfect.